I always love that word, grenzenlos, without boundaries. And that's what we just heard, and that's what we should be striving for. One good image of that, or expression of that, is Ascension. Now, we just celebrated the last full moon. We celebrated the Buddhist Wesak or Vesak festival, which celebrates the birth, life, and death, and final enlightenment and final passing of the Buddha. So it involves the Buddha's, Shakyamuni's entire humanity, which is also what the Feast of the Ascension is about in Christianity. We celebrated Ascension Thursday 2 days ago, and this weekend other churches are celebrating that Feast of the Ascension. And this is, again, involves the whole humanity, the fulfillment of all the humanity of Jesus. And, this is a cross-cultural idea. You've all heard of the ascended masters. All masters are, once they pass, are ascended. What does it mean, ascended? Well, where do they go? And with what and how? So I want to look a little bit at that. It's not that they don't, as I preached in my Ascension homily, it's Jesus didn't go anywhere geographically. He's not ascending into the clouds and waiting, on Alpha Centauri to come back again sometime up there. And we already, according to St. Paul, are already sitting with him in the heavenly places. So what does that mean? It means that we're all, it's a reality that is accessible, that's already there, and that we enter into. It's a new, as I said, it's a new dimension of being and consciousness. So not where, but how and with what. How do we get there and with what? And let's use the Ascension as a way of approaching that. Now, this is what the contemporary modern Christian mystic Bernadette Roberts says about Christ's ascension. With the dissolution of Christ's human form, seemingly into air or a cloud, Christ suddenly becomes everywhere. No longer limited to a single form, Christ is the one eternal form from which all multiple forms arise and into which they dissolve. But this is the part I like especially. All created individual form is transformed, divinized, that ancient Christian notion of divinization, divinized or transubstantiated, like the Eucharist. We'll come back to that. Transubstantiated into the one eternal form. So form is transformed, divinized, and transubstantiated. Well, again, how? I'd like to look especially at a paragraph from Cynthia Bourgeau's book on the Holy Trinity and the Law of Three. She, by the way, makes no secret of the fact that these 10 days between Ascension Thursday and Pentecost, these days we're living now in the Christian tradition, are her favorite time of year. There's a special mystic significance to it. And this is on her chapter, at the end of the chapter, which speaks about Christ's ascension. It's the interplay between Mary Magdalene and Jesus. But it can be the interplay between anyone and Jesus, or be anyone and the Buddha, or anyone and anyone. Anyway, it's the scene in the garden where Christ says, I'm ascending now to my God and your God, my Father and your Father. And he says to her, do not cling to me. Now, how Buddhist is that? Don't cling. Don't cling to the form here. I've not yet ascended to the Father. And then he widens the space, and their human hearts, whose ever human hearts, their human hearts in that instant undergo the sacred alchemy described by the great metaphysical poet John Donne. This is his poem, Valediction Forbidding Mourning, in which he says, this is not a breach, but an expansion. Like gold to airy thinness beat. So when it's an expansion, beating down to the gold to airy thinness. Beautiful image. She continues, without losing any of its human particularity, their love becomes vast and luminous throughout the cosmos, drawing together all of those realms, visible and invisible, in a single sacred embrace that bears within it the fullness of the mercy of God. And then this especially. Transfigured Eros is the immortal diamond fused at the very heart of the density of this world. So transfigured Eros is the fundamental energy of the universe. Teilhard de Chardin said that. And stop making distinctions between Eros and agape. Eros is simply, when it's transfigured, it's this expansion and fullness. The attraction and expansion of the whole universe is there. So transfigured Eros, how? We'll see. Transfigured is the immortal diamond fused at the very heart of the density of this world. It can be fused only here, under these extreme conditions of density and pressure. That's how a diamond is created, right? That's what a diamond is. It's fused and in extreme pressure and density. The coal of our ordinary lives becomes an immortal diamond that can be fused only under these conditions of transfigured Eros, where the density and intensity and the pressure turn it into the fullness of the immortal diamond. And she concludes, it's the purpose for which this realm was created. It's what we human beings are meant to discover here. And it is what we are required to offer back into the cosmos on the altar of our own transfigured hearts. We're called to offer it back on the altar of our own transfigured hearts. That's the ascension. And that's how it works. And what we bring is everything. But it's fused and transformed under the conditions of density and pressure and intensity, which are our life when it's lived to the full, and which is our practice and is what it's all about. That's how the immortal diamond, that's how it works. Now, you've heard the expression. It comes up in many traditions. Immortal Diamond is the name of a book by Richard Rohr, in which he says, we are an immortal diamond. And Vajrayana means that. Vajra means diamond. Adamantine, the pure crystal that's solid and fused and radiant, indestructible. But that's how it works. We can't imagine the immortal diamond is just up there from before all time and never mind. You have to get out of our humanity in order to reach it. It's precisely fused here. And that's how the immortal diamond works. So this is maybe a new way of looking at it, but it turns out not to be so new. Who knew? Not surprisingly. And here's where we're going to go right back to the Denko Roku here, using the same kind of imagery, and helps to see this imagery, which is so rampant, so common, in this whole new light. And yet it's not a new light, because that's what we get right here. And the 14th patriarch was Nagarjuna. Surprise, surprise. How should we be surprised? Because Nagarjuna is precisely the one, around 300 AD, whenever it was, same time as the Heart Sutra, which we just proclaimed, we just chanted, which mentions form and emptiness are always together. Form is emptiness and emptiness is form. Nagarjuna's whole philosophy is that. You can't separate out this realm and that realm, which are all ultimately one. The same Nagarjuna who in the succeeding koan, by the way, with Kanadeva, has this famous image of the needle in a bowl of water. You can't just have the bowl of water with the absolute. You have to have that needle of the particular, the needle of form in there, which you can't get rid of. It'll stick in your throat if you try to do that, as it says. But here in this preceding case, the 14th patriarch, Nagarjuna, he paid a visit to the Naga king. Now there you have it again. Who are the Nagas? Nagarjuna means Lord of the Nagas. The Nagas are mythical beings, or they're probably real beings in some realm, that are snake and the head of a man. kind of like the dragon, the symbol of enlightenment. The dragon with, as in, I'm looking at it on my wall across here, the dragon with the flaming pearl in his mouth or in his paw. Again, a gem image, a precious image of enlightenment, but only when you integrate the whole sphere of, Kundalini, dragon and all of that. Anyway, so the Dragon King gives him a wish-fulfilling jewel. There you go. Every precious gem, and we'll see what that is wish-fulfilling because it's everything we could ever want, because it's everything we ever are, and it's everything is. So how could you have more than that? Anyway, the koan is this jewel the best? This jewel is the best in the world. Does it have a form, or is it formless? So there you go. Are you going to make your false dichotomy here? Is it just formless, or is it also form? And of course, that's whole Nagarjuna's whole philosophy, as I say. So the master, Kapimala, replies, you just understand having form and not having form. You don't understand that this jewel neither has form nor is formless. Nor do you understand that this jewel is not a jewel. Well, it is, but it's a symbol, all right? And the master heard this and was deeply enlightened, as you would expect. But in the commentary here, other masters are quoted saying, the entirety is a jewel. So we become everything, as Bernadette said, it's the one eternal form. We enter into it is, and we discover we are everything, that everything is a jewel fused together in this way. And he also said, this master, the whole universe in the 10 directions is one bright jewel. The mani, Om Mani Padme Om, the jewel, the precious jewel. And all treasures, it says, appear from this jewel. It's inexhaustible. Goes on to say, by the way, and this comes back to transubstantiation, actually. The wish-fulfilling jewel among humans is called a grain of rice. It's nourishment. We, like Christ ascended Christ in the Eucharist, Buddha, all of us can become nourishment, a grain of rice, as the jewel, a precious jewel. And it says, when the Buddha Dharma is extinguished, the Buddha's relics will become jewels, rain down on everything, and then turn into rice. Wow, that's a rich image. And when one's own original mind is revealed, it becomes a long body with 3 heads, horns, and hair. In other words, all infinite variety of other forms. It's all included in that, all transformed into that, as that, this great mind jewel. So now I think we have a better understanding of this perpetual image of the jewel and how it becomes the jewel, how it is the jewel, what it includes, and how we do it, and what we bring to it, because everything is included. I mean, just think again, in the Tibetan tradition, you have the meditation Buddhists, the Dhyani Buddhists, in their various forms. For example, Ratnasambhava, whose name literally means born from the jewel, is associated with the earth, with spring, and with the hara, the navel chakra. So precisely the energies of earth are the jewel. And he holds, in his left hand, he holds the jewel. On his right hand, he's holding out his hand in giving and pouring out nourishment, pouring out gifts to the world. So that includes all the wonderful imagery. And Shanresik, especially the Tibetan manifestation of Avalokiteshvara, the Bodhisattva of compassion, among the many hands he has, 4 hands, is holding a wish-fulfilling jewel. So it's precisely in compassion, in pouring out and giving, the intensity and density and pressure of living our lives in integrity and fullness, and the density of our practice in our life, that's the jewel, and that's what brings the jewel. So many things are illuminated by this. The imagery keeps coming up: crystalline, diamond, adamantine, crystalline, the crystalline body. Cynthia talks about that in one of her latest books. That's the ultimate manifestation of the body, the crystalline body, the ascended body, if you will. and in our medieval cosmology. Wonder where we got this exactly. The ninth heaven above the planets and the stars, the firmament of the stars, and before you get to the ultimate, to nirvana, to God, you have the ninth heaven, which is called the crystalline heaven. Pure radiance and pure transparency before ultimately into the absolute. I wonder if they might have gotten that from the book of Revelation, the Apocalypse, which, as you know, in the final chapters is absolutely full of gem imagery. It speaks about a sea of glass, pure as crystal, in front of the throne. Who's that? Well, it's us. That's what it's us. It's all of reality. Crystalline, pure as crystal. So maybe where they got the crystalline heavens. And all the other imagery there, the New Jerusalem again, which we are, which is everything, is a pure gem, radiant with glory. Above the throne, there's a rainbow like emerald, there's jasper and carnelian, and a rainbow. The rainbow body, you've heard of that. The ascended body is a rainbow body. It's ultimately adamantine, but it can reflect all the different forms and all the different radiances and all the different colors. You have the 12 different gemstones, which are the foundations of the city of God, and the lamp of it is no sun or moon because it's innerly radiant with the Lamb. Maybe we can take the light as a symbol of the absolute in the gem, which is the universe, but it has its own. Don't make the separation. It's just a radiant gem, the whole thing. So that ultimate radiance, which can take all sorts of forms and colors, is right there. So I think we need to realize that the immortal diamond is not just before all time, but after all time. To be eternal doesn't mean before time, it just means includes everything, all time, beyond time, but including all. It's not just the Alpha, the face before we were born, but it's the Omega, the face once we're ascended. And we bring home the harvest of our lives as the immortal diamond. So let's live intensely and densely and as much integrity as possible in communion and giving, communion and transubstantiation of all our actions and hearts into compassion, so that we can hold like the Bodhisattva of compassion, that jewel in our hands, which is all of us and always our identity and our destiny. Thank you.
Woo!
Thank you, Michael.
Thank you.